Yeonmi Park absolutely shocks far leftists and especially socialists after they learn just how terrible socialism is by hearing about her own experiences defecting from the North Korean regime. This is gonna be an interesting one, guys. I think you're gonna enjoy it. I know I did. Frankly, it reminds me how lucky I am to be an American. It really is a privilege, even with all the craziness we see in this country today. It truly is, and I mean that. So we're gonna get right into the video, guys. It's gonna be a good one. But first, please make sure you like our video, share it around, and subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream YouTube channel. The reason we need you guys to subscribe is so we can keep bringing you guys these great videos. So please go ahead and do it. I'm your host, Darian, and let's get right into the video, guys.
Hi, I'm Alana. So since you've been in America, what is one thing that you think Americans take for granted that you love?
It's choice.
Choice.
I don't think Americans understand what a unique thing to have a choice. Choice to where you live, what you do, who you marry, what you even eat. When you go to restaurants, you have at least dozens of them to choose from. In North Korea, we don't have cookbook because nobody can afford the ingredients to make different kinds of food. So I think that's what I see, that Americans don't understand how unique the way of life is here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alejandra. I'm from Venezuela, and I experienced not the same scenario, but obviously the dictator over there is a friend of Kim Jong-un, and I just have a question because the way I see the generation now is that they're so indoctrinated that there's pretty much no way to revert that damage that the left have caused. And do you think any possibility that we can change that in the near future, maybe?
Yeah, thank you. I definitely see that. I think, like people from Venezuela, Cuba, or Iran, and North Korea, none of them want to live under socialism. That's why we escaped. And all these people living in democracy, they want to bring the socialism to this country. And the reason why I think they think that way is because of the American education system became a huge propaganda tool. It became an indoctrination camp, like North Korean schoolrooms. And I think once we realize what is getting into our children's minds, and also we realize how American media became liars, and they became a propaganda tool as well. Once we see that, and this hijacking of these big institutions, then I think we can change that. But first is definitely education, that our children getting brainwashed, and my son is too. I worry about that every day, and people really don't understand how bad it got in this country right now.
Thank you.
It's a great point by Yeonmi over here. Americans will very often talk about the propaganda we see in North Korea or China, even Russia, talk about how, bad or pernicious it is. And maybe that's true, but something we rarely seem to talk about and have an honest conversation regarding is propaganda in our own country. What kind of propaganda are we being force-fed as American children? And I don't want to get into it right now, but there are a myriad of examples that come to mind. One example is Christopher Columbus. You ever hear about how Columbus Day is so terrible when you have Indigenous Peoples Day or whatever because it's offensive and so wrong? Why do people say it's offensive? Oh, Christopher Columbus, he's evil. He genocided natives. Is that why he adopted his own native son and raised him as his own? Because he was this evil racist who hated natives? Point being, it's a lot more complicated than that, but it's so oversimplified. That's just one of so many examples that come up where Americans are totally propagandized and brainwashed within our education system, and we don't even realize it.
Hi, my name is Omar. Well, I think your story is massively inspirational. Something that was just going in my mind when you were talking was in transition from North Korea into American culture, experiencing that culture shock. Did you have like a singular moment where it just hit you that like, okay, things are different now?
Yeah, I mean, every second things are different. No, I mean, in my dreams, I am still a lot of times a captive. I am still in North Korea, but when I wake up, it's not. So Yeah, I think it's not like one single thing. Like even when I wake up in a nice mattress, like I've never seen a mattress in my life in North Korea. When I get into a warm shower, I've never had a shower in my life. You know, when I have a refrigerator, like everything is literally a miracle.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danny. You talked a lot about human rights activism. What's a good way for a college student to get involved with that? What's a good first step?
Yes. First step is do not join the United Nations. I mean, they are the biggest, most useless organization I've ever seen in my lifetime. I'm sorry, but I have spoke at UN multiple times and complete degenerates. I'm so sorry. They let North Korea, China, Saudi Arabia, they let them decide who are the human rights violators. This is a joke, right? It's a show. So when you want to become a human rights activist, I think it's really important to find your own path and not following this mainstream. And I mean, BLM people say they are like fighting for human rights too, right? So it's not at this point embarrassing to even say that because human rights got hijacked by so many social justice warriors. They're like, what are you actually fighting for? So yeah, I think don't look for big institutions, and it needs a lot of innovation. So like think about it as a business. We need to innovate these NGO spaces as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of useless NGOs, namely the United Nations, as was just brought up, did you know that the United Nations, via the WHO, has been pushing for a pandemic treaty of sorts that would essentially force a nation state to follow their guidelines as soon as a new viral outbreak is declared? By the way, the Biden administration is in full favor of it. Look that up. Useless is an understatement.
Hello, I'm Luke. I'm just wondering what your favorite fast food burger is here.
Hamburger. But even though Kim Jong-il said he discovered the hamburger. Did you see that? Yeah, but he discovered everything. But I think it's pretty awesome food. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Got good taste.
Hello, my name is Wilson. I have a question. As a North Korean defector, what is life like in South Korea, and what type of support do you get from their government?
Yeah, South Korea was very tough. I got heavily discriminated, and a lot of North Koreans cannot even get a job as a waitress in South Korea because of their accent. We have a northern accent, they can tell. So it's very hard for North Korean to adjust in South Korea and then America. So I'm very lucky that I came to America and stop being South Korean, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I was actually going to ask almost the exact same question because I'm studying abroad in South Korea next semester. But I was just wondering, I've also read your book and you said you experienced discrimination there. But I was wondering, is there still a big population of North Korean people who stay in South Korea, or do you think the majority of them defect? But I know, as you said, it's a very small amount who actually make it to America. So if not America, are they just staying in South Korea or going elsewhere?
Oh, mostly they are in China, captured.
Okay.
So majority of North Koreans are in China, and they end up in 4 places as a North Korean defector in China. One is you end up in organ harvesting. So they buy you and take your organs out and discard you. Second is you are bought in these brothels. They rape you until you die. Usually you die in 6 months. And then third place is where a town of men buy a girl, ship in and buy a girl, and then they rotate and keep her and she dies out. And last place is sex chat rooms, where they lock these girls indoor and they make them to perform sex in front of the camera, and then for that these girls get fed and get hidden place. So this is happening, and this is a thing. I am here because there are, as I said, 300,000 of them are trapped in China. and don't know if there's any life for them. And I've been trying to spread this message in America, in the land of the free. And one of the producers last year in Hollywood wanted to make a movie out of my story from my first book. And he sent me a movie script, and he says, China was my promised land. When I got to China, they gave me protection and refugee. I asked him, like, what the heck are you talking about? Right? And he said, this is the only way we can make a movie about North Korea in Korean Hollywood, by lying about China. And that's why no Michelle Obama or Mark Clooney or none of these people would sit down with me, talk to me, because they all making money out of China.
Wow.
And that's why North Korean stories are buried deep down, and nobody ever talk about this modern day genocide and Holocaust anywhere.
Wow. So for me specifically, or just for anyone who is passionate about this as well, because I'm personally very interested in like Korean culture, I spoke to you earlier, but also in refugee policy specifically, what would your advice be to me or anyone who's passionate about helping North Korean, especially defectors? What do you think that I could do, honestly, moving forward?
So there are two ways you can get involved. One is actual action, and there's a lot of missionaries are still rescuing North Koreans from China to freedom. So you can join one of those mission groups, and in any way you can help. And second is, I guess we have to elect right leaders in America that understands the threat of China, understand the corruption in American mainstream institutions, and they're willing to be the voice for the voiceless people. So I think that's two ways we can do as Americans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a fantastic point that Park brings up about how China is just frankly defended by Western media at every turn. She specifically talks about Hollywood, but we see this elsewhere too. Look at the NBA, for example. I mean, it's no secret that they shill for China on a routine basis. Remember that loser head coach for the Warriors, Steve Kerr? And how every time someone asked him about China, he'd say, well, you want to talk about China and criticize China? Well, I don't know much about it. And aside from that, America's got its own problems.
It has not come up in terms of people asking me about it, people discussing it. No. Nor has our record of human rights abuses come up either. Things that our country needs to look at and resolve.
Kerr literally starts talking about blabbering on about AR-15s in America and school shootings and how terrible it is when someone asks him about China's human rights violations.
But people in China didn't ask me about, people owning AR-15s and mowing each other down in a mall. I wasn't asked that question.
What? Just totally incoherent. And it's not just Steve Kerr either in the sports world. You remember John Cena? Tough guy, John Cena, WWE wrestler and superstar. Oh, wow, he's so tough. John Cena committed the cardinal sin of referring to Taiwan as a country. I'm not kidding, that was his offense. And after the Chinese got angry about it, he literally put out an apology in Mandarin in order to atone for it. It sounds like I'm making it up, but I'm not. Maybe you guys have seen the clip.
我有一个错误，我必须说现在就是很重要。我爱更尊重中国，更中国人。我很抱歉对我的错误。
Dude, you're such a loser. Just unbelievable. All this to say, she's totally right. China does have a stranglehold on our culture, and it's very scary. That aside, I am so grateful to be an American and have grown up in this great country. I can't imagine going through some of the horrors that Yeonmi Park has gone through, as well as many other North Koreans, whether they've defected or not. It's just devastating to think about. We are so lucky, and I say that as somebody who is very critical about the current state of America. Be it the crazy gender stuff, our sick and decadent culture, etc., etc. There is still so much to be thankful for, and I thank God for that every day. So that makes me wonder, why do so many Americans support socialism? It's kind of disturbing. Unless you think I'm making this up, look at the Pew Research polls on this. A majority of Democrats in the United States have at least favorable views towards socialism. And people clearly need to receive a proper education, not this propagandistic brainwashing that we see in our American universities all the time. Well, guys, that wraps up our segment for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, comment below, let us know what you liked, what you want to see next, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks, and God bless.